God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Today, guys, we're going to talk about GreyBoxing and why Visionary Realms is doing it, and why it is a smart way to build a world, as well as look at how common this practice actually is. Before we get started, if you are new here, please consider subscribing, and I want to give a big shout out to the members of Napalm for keeping the lights on and keeping this channel going. I thank you all so much, and I couldn't do it without your support. If you are interested in becoming a member and helping support this channel, please click the join button down below for more information and a list of perks. Now let's get started. So I've talked with Jop and other members of the Visionary Realms team about Pantheon's current GreyBoxing, and of course I've done some research, and I want to start off by saying that most major development studios use some form of GreyBoxing in order to build and test their game, and especially true, super true, for developers who want to focus on the gameplay and mechanics before investing too heavily on any of the art or graphics associated with the game. Now, most of the time we don't see the GreyBoxing because it's done behind the curtains, and they do not show us those areas until the finished assets are applied. However, Pantheon, as you're probably aware, is an MMORPG being developed right now in front of our faces, as needed since it is a crowdfunded game. By using GreyBoxes in order to present what will be there, Visionary Realms can share with us for playtest immediately. They can also be iterated quickly, and zones and areas can be designed faster in order to later go back as they are created and place the final assets through pipelines that make it efficient and easy. Also, a piece of information that VR might be reluctant to say this bluntly, but is possible, is it allows them to fully test the gameplay and all the important pieces, and then on the back end, they can add the finished assets, allowing for the game to still keep an element of surprise at launch, as the finished assets truly change the feeling and atmosphere of the game, but are actually not needed for testing. Most, if not all, that developers would actually need. I'm not saying that VR has two clients, one further along and one GreyBoxed. I'm just simply saying it is possible if they wanted to keep that element of surprise. GreyBoxing is simply a low-tech and easy way to build a zone that means they can easily change, add new things, place quests, add NPCs, remove, move, change, or edit anything they want very quickly and with less headaches. Once the final assets are ready, it is very simple to add them en masse or individually to the zone or world using the pipelines that are already in place with each GreyBox. The two largest reasons developers like to GreyBox are when developing complicated mechanics and when developers want to design complicated or intricate areas, or in this case, zones, in a very easy to manipulate environment. And although even large teams with no issues with funding and loads of cash in the bank use GreyBoxing, it also works extremely well with a small team that doesn't want to waste any development time and also wants to test complicated systems and monitor very delicately the resources available in the engine they are developing for, in this case Unity. In many cases, when GreyBoxing is not used, it causes wasted time and energy to implement features or change things in the development environment. Wasting time is something Visionary Realms can simply not afford to do, with it being this close to alpha and with such a small team and limited funding. Now let's talk about mechanics. MMO mechanics are very complicated, and that's assuming your MMORPG is very simple even. Classes and all of the actions that come with each one and how they interact with one another, as well as how they interact with the world and the things that live in the world, quests and chained quests making exploration fun, and in this case climbing and the verticality that brings with it and making that fun and not tedious. Animations, mobs, their roaming behaviors, their animations, their actions, their pathing, and so much more. The fun factor of each area and making sure to put tons of secrets and hard to find nooks and crannies to keep it exciting and fresh for each of the millions of players in their multiple playthroughs and their multiple runs to always find something new. And I could go on, but I think you get the point. And these are all necessary things, but then you add in complicated systems like the perception system, and I think you can see how having an environment for the developers to easily plug and play new ideas and fix issues as they are tested or respond to the testers in pre-alpha can be more easily done in a Greybox environment where it's plug and play for those assets to come in when ready or when they want to. One of my favorite examples in video games where the world is still extremely fun to discover and play in, even though the game is old now, is Mario 64, which used Greyboxing heavily to test the mechanics and the world design and to more easily develop and test until they felt it was just right, and it had that magic. And Nintendo continues to use this method over and over in order to develop fun worlds for players to play over and over again that feels so good and allows for different playstyles that were all thoroughly tested. Also, Alien Isolation used Greyboxing very heavily during development, and actually, during the Greybox testing, they found the very key element of fun of the game that originally wasn't going to be the foundation of the gameplay, and that is the hide-and-seek style of being hunted by the alien. And they were able to quickly develop levels through Greyboxing that, if you played the game, you will understand, is what made the level design and the game itself so much more fun. Without Greyboxing, I dare say the game would have suffered and been a crap ton less interesting. And another fun fact, the game was shown to the publisher in this Greybox form and it was quickly greenlit. And that brings us to another point for Pantheon. The more of the level design and the quicker they can show off just how much fun and just how much is done as far as one of the more time-intensive parts of making Terminus, which is world building, that they can get done and show to a publisher, the quicker they can get a large sum of funding in order to hire up and get the assets and final art, the animations, the systems, the classes, and everything done, and we can move into launch insanely faster than seems possible at this point. Now let's discuss zone design. As previously stated, Visionary Realms needs to produce and iterate zones quickly, and they are building an entire world where each zone is packed with excitement, secrets, and more to do than we could possibly do in our lifetime. So it's a monumentous task. The idea of Greyboxing is that rather than spend so much time and money to create assets for each zone as they go, they can create the geometric shapes in order to test internally and externally and test the gameplay for all the various complications of an MMORPG and quickly and easily edit and move things or outright change things on the fly with less manpower and without creating the mess. It's worth mentioning that even things like allowing the camera to not clip often or to clip in a way that looks good to the player is a big factor here as well. Something very common is unused assets in making video games. Things that sounded great on paper, development time was used, and outright wasted on that got cut from the game entirely. Although this happens with every game, it is far less likely in a game that is tested in Greybox form thoroughly first. The Uncharted series used Greyboxing in order to design their games with great success as an example of building their levels and perfecting their gameplay and able to pump out detailed levels in a lesser amount of time, with the monumental task of developing an entire world that is worthy of being discovered and rediscovered for decades to come with a small team, and honestly, as I've demonstrated, even a large team. I hope I was able to convey the importance of Greyboxing. It's not pretty to look at. It doesn't seem like there's a lot going on there, at least from a standard player's point of view, but you have to understand the back end, that this is truly exciting and how easy it will be to pop those assets in as they are created and how they are wasting less time on the art and more time on the world building and putting the gameplay and the experience first in the development of this upcoming MMORPG, and how that's a great, important way to do it. You also need to understand how quickly things can go from Greybox to fully fleshed out with all of the textures and models when they're ready to do so, with a few key presses. At this point, after doing Project Farewell, in my opinion, they could pop enough in right now to fill the zones, but instead, they want to focus on the things that are more long-term and make this MMO something special, and I, for one, can feel the magic right now without the fancy graphics, and I understand that those elements simply are extra fluff as compared to the core of the world, the systems, and the gameplay elements, and I hope you can too. Now don't forget to go support Visionary Realms by heading to pantheonmmo.com and pledging your way into either pre-alpha, alpha, or beta, or simply reserve your copy of this exciting MMO. And if you want more information about the game, I have a playlist right here on my channel with around 200 videos discussing every detail of the game that I have thought of so far, and with so much more to come. If you aren't already subscribed, please consider doing so. And I want to give one more big shout out to the members of Napalm for keeping this channel alive and possible. I could not do this without you all, and if you are interested in becoming a member, please click the join button down below for more information and a list of perks. And until next time, God bless and happy gaming. Please listen to what I say. I've been making videos all day. It's a video buffet, you can even hit replay. But please just subscribe. I can't even describe being part of my tribe. I'll even offer you a prize, but just please just subscribe and hit the bell notification too.